All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Oakland Mills Community Association Village Board meeting. It's 7:03, and we're going to get the meeting underway. The first order of business on our agenda tonight is to approve the minutes. No,
So moved.
we didn't have a July 27th meeting. That should say July
Oh.
13th, right?
Okay.
I don't,
Nobody caught it.
how I don't catch this when I proofread, but as soon as I'm looking at the agenda during a live meeting, it pops up in
That's
my head.
okay.
It's
So
it's July
So moved.
13th, and also what was the other one? We had the
The special
board
session from July 6th.
6th. Yeah.
Okay.
So move both of them.
Okay. So there's a motion to approve the minutes from both the July 6th special session and the July 13th meeting. Warren, did you have a comment?
No, second.
Oh, you're second. Okay. Okay. So there's a motion from Ginny, a second from Warren. Is there any discussion about the minutes from those two meetings? Okay. All in favor of approving? All right. I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Jennifer, if you're able to hear us, but your video is not working, can you do the raised hand or say something? I think she's having technical difficulties. Jennifer, we're not seeing you and we're just hearing little blips. Okay. Whoops. I think that is the raised hand in
Right,
favor of
right.
approving. All right. So it's 7-0-0. Okay. Next up is, do we have a motion to approve the agenda for tonight's meeting?
So moved.
Okay, there's a motion from Ginny. Is there a second?
Second.
Warren has the second again. Is there any discussion of tonight's agenda? Okay, all in favor of approving? All right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 0, 0. Thank you. All right, then we are underway. So first up is resident remarks. If you are a resident and you would like to make remarks tonight, please use the hand raise feature and I'll call on you in the order that the hands go up. You have 3 minutes to make remarks, and I'll give you a 30-second warning when you've done 2.5 minutes, and then let you know when your 3 minutes are up. So looks like the first hand raise we have is Jim Caffey.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing really well, thank you. First of all, thank you all for what you do. And Sandy, thank you for the support of our block party at Bucket Post. Wonderful time. Only comments I would like to make are to encourage our village board to support and to help us move forward the idea of establishing a multi-use path on the south side of Route 108. This is all tied together with the Orchard Green Tot Lots path. In order to, it's a tinker to Evers to chance. In order to build the path, we need a sidewalk. To have the sidewalk, we need the sidewalk to have the crossing light fixed. So, and that right now, it's my understanding that it's within the power of Columbia and the county to establish this multi-use path. And I would just encourage the board to support that. And Jenny, if you could ask the Columbia City Council to support that and perhaps move that priority up from the long term to a shorter term. It would be wonderful. And I'm a bike rider. I sit on one of the subcommittees here focusing on public space, and I think this would be a great opportunity to tie together not only the northern end of Oakland Mills to other shopping areas along 108 safely, but also to help us tie together with our neighboring villages. There are 3 paths that dead end into nothing next to 108. And having ridden my bike on 108, I can tell you that it would be preferred to have a multi-use path. And with that, I'll yield the remainder of my time back to the chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I appreciate the Tinker to Evers to Chance reference as a baseball fan, but around here, maybe it should be Belanger to Johnson to Powell.
I'd accept that.
Thank you for that feedback. And in fact, Warren and I are going to give an update on that whole situation during the old business portion of the agenda, if you haven't taken a look at that. So there will be some news to share and potential next steps for the board coming up right during that part of the business. Okay, next up we have Sheila.
Hi, thank you for letting me speak today. I've sent the bulk of my comments to you by email to save time because it's kind of a long-standing problem that I was going to address. But before I make any additional remarks, I have to say that I have heard back from Lynn that I may not want to address the board because of jeopardizing a case that's ongoing. And I didn't know about any case. I would like to know if there is a reason why I should not speak to the board. I, of course, don't want to shoot myself in the foot. Thanks. Response?
Lynn, did you want me to address that, or do you want to address that?
I'll address it just quickly, and then you can contribute to it too, Jonathan, if you would. Sheila, I didn't say that there is an ongoing case. I said that should there be a case, that we would not be able to turn a case over to CA with any kind of expectation that they would be able to act on it if there had already been public discussion about it. And a public discussion is different from working with the covenant advisors, with our village manager, and with me as the architecture chair. That's kind of the process that we have to follow. And if we veer from that process, it becomes something where it becomes problematic, because it seems that should there be something that there's already been discussion that would prejudice a decision, it's just legal procedure. I mean, it's nothing that we have decided arbitrarily about your case. It really applies with your issue. It applies to every issue that has the potential of becoming a legal case.
Okay, sorry, this is Anjali and Sangvi. I'm gonna just jump in here for a second. I live right next to Sheila, and actually my
I'm sorry. I'm going to interrupt you. If you want to get in line for resident speak out, you can, but we have to maintain order.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I was speaking with Sheila, if that's okay. Is that okay? In the same 3 minutes?
With me.
Okay. Let me restart the clock. We had 2 minutes left in Sheila's time. If you're combining, I paused it while Lynn was responding. Go ahead.
Okay. So, if you're saying that we have to go through the process, could you please send us what the process is? Because I think we're just like, this has been such a long-standing, ongoing issue. It's been years now, and it seems to have gone nowhere. So if we could get a copy of the entire process, that would be really good, so that we know exactly where we are in the process and what is next.
Okay, so Anjali, if you send me your email, I'll copy you, and I'll send it to both you and to Sheila tomorrow morning.
Fantastic.
Well, if that's the case, I guess I don't need to discuss it with you, but does that mean that in the future I should just email the board like I did with my initial statement?
You should, no, you should.
How would you even know that there was a problem? I mean, you're saying, oh, if there is a case, how would you know there is some?
There is a complaint, then you file an actual complaint with our covenant advisor, and you can copy me and Sandy, and then we go from there.
I have done that 3 times already, starting in August of 2017.
Okay, that's
Also filed with the Department of Planning and Zoning. So what would you say?
Lynn,
I
you want
would
me to
say-
you want me to jump in?
Yeah.
So without again getting into the particulars of this, because it could be a case with both Oakland Mills and the county. Well, first of all, one thing to keep in mind is the Oakland Mills Village has extremely limited authority over the use of properties. Primarily, our authority is over architecture through the covenants, with some, very limited authority over in-home businesses. And most of that authority over in-home businesses is the authority to consider whether to approve an in-home business if a resident comes to us requesting an in-home business. Most of the rest of your situation is probably a county issue, without going into the details, but just having seen what's in the email. With that said, I think it's important to lay out to everyone, what the process is in Oakland Mills for any kind of a property alteration or a property dispute, because it really is a two-tiered process. And it's not that the board doesn't want to be aware of what's happening. It's that the board needs to be aware at certain stages because it's two-tiered. So if you're altering a property, you would go through our covenant advisor for alterations. You would get a date with the resident architecture committee. They would hear your proposal to alter your property. They would make a recommendation to the architecture chair to approve that, to disapprove that, or to approve it with some stipulations. Ultimately, the architecture chair, who's Lynn this year, would make the determination on that property. If you did not agree with that determination, that is then when the board would get involved, because you would have the opportunity to file an appeal. The board then hears the appeal. So on property alterations, one of the reasons we say it's not only not necessarily but not appropriate to contact the board before then is because if the board is perceived as being biased in some way, and if something has to go beyond the board, because people can and have filed suits against this community association and others before, all of that would be taken into consideration and could come back as a determination that our judgment was biased when it came before the board. In a property complaint, similar process, except this time it goes through the covenant advisor for complaints. Lynn is copied on all complaints, or I shouldn't say Lynn, the architecture chair, which happens to be Lynn at the time, as is Sandy. There is a process by which we work through the complaint process with the property against which there's a complaint, if we can establish that the complaint is valid. The process has several, I guess what I'll call milestones along the way that have to be met. And the reason for all of that is well, first of all, to ensure that the owner of the property gets their due process, and second is to ensure that we follow all of our steps carefully. So if it does come to a legal dispute between the community association and the resident, it's Columbia Association that actually represents the village associations once it becomes a legal dispute, and they will not take those cases if they think that we veered from our process. And once again, the village board comes in toward the end of the process, because if that compliance issue cannot be worked out after all of our process steps have been followed, what happens is Lynn, as the architecture chair, brings that complaint to the village board, and the village board has to vote on whether to send the resident a final 15-day notice to basically comply or face basically a legal case. And then at the expiration of that 15-day notice, the board has to determine whether to refer it to CA Legal. The first thing CA Legal is going to do is look back and say, did you follow your process? Did the board do this without any bias, without any influence, et cetera? Or they're not going to take the case. So it's not that we don't want to know what's going on, and it's not that the right members of our board aren't aware of what's going on. It's that when the whole board gets brought into the process too early, it could jeopardize the end of the process should it become a legal case. And I'm not just referring specifically to the one you're talking about. I'm referring to anything, whether it's a property change or whether it's a complaint against a property.
So as I did in August of 2017, when I registered a complaint with Deb Bowie at that time, and then followed up with Bob Bellamy and Bill Deneau about the specifying the guidelines 23.4.8 and 23.3.1, that is, I should do that again. Is that what you're telling me?
What I'm telling you is that we actually cannot go and close down a business because a resident says there's a business operating. These people, if people do not if people do not actually apply to have an in-home business, our hands are pretty much tied. It's then up to the county. If somebody is operating a business without a license, it's up to the county to step in. We have no way. We have what a neighbor might say, but we have no way of ourselves independently verifying that. And we've attempted, we do it in many ways. I know that we have 3 or 4 instances where neighbors have complained about what they see as an in-home business that's operating without a license. And we do what we can. We drive by, we take photographs, we look for ads, we do all of this sort of thing. We're all volunteers and doing stakeouts of properties around Columbia to try to determine if people are actually changing, money's changing hands is a tall order. So if we can't get the county, if the county will not act on an in-home business that is not licensed, our hands we're limited as to what we can do. And it's not for not trying. Believe me, it's not for not trying. We are not in favor of having unlicensed businesses operating. That's not something that we are in any way wanting to enable to happen. So, but it's limited. And so in certain cases, you can go to the county for the Department of Permits and Licensing. You can go to the zoning, the Department of Planning and Zoning. You can go to the health department if you see that it's a health issue. You can go if it's something that involves animals that might be mistreated, or you can go to animal control. There are different agencies in the county, but aside from ourselves approaching the county agencies and urging them to act, our hands are tied. We do not have authority over in-home businesses. We don't issue licenses. All we can do is say that it conforms to our covenant regulations. It doesn't disturb the neighbors if someone applies. And if someone does not apply and it's perceived by neighbors that a business is taking place, all we can do is to verify that that something is happening that is disturbing to the neighbors for any one of the reasons that you pointed out in the covenant regulations or other regulations. So there are ways of approaching it, but it's difficult. And if we try to do something to press the issue with the resident who is out of compliance, that's where it really comes to all the things that Jonathan has said, that if there's a lot of discussion back and forth between neighbors and board members, it can come off as a neighbor to neighbor dispute. It can come off as the board being unfairly lobbied, if it really came to some issue like that. So it's very complicated. It's not us turning a deaf ear or not wanting to assist our residents. We understand how certain issues can be very, very upsetting and very disruptive. And we do what we can.
One thing I'll add to what Lynn just said is last year, and Sandy, maybe you and I can go back and find the exact date and find the minutes and whether there were any documents shared by the county. But last year, we actually did have the Department of Planning and Zoning in for a conversation on just this matter of unauthorized businesses operating out of residentially zoned homes. And they did walk through the process. They did walk through what the village board could do. They did walk through what residents can do. So I think that's other information that we can, if they left us with any documentation, I don't recall, but at least we can go back to the minutes. That's other information we can share. But I will say that this is not the only issue of this type, and the Department of Planning and Zoning. This may be one to lobby your county council and county executive. The Department of Planning and Zoning is not resourced to cover all of Howard County, given the number of potential violations and complaints out there. So much like we're doing our best, we were hearing the same thing from them. I think they have 2 inspectors to cover a county of, what is it, 350,000 people. I don't know how many residences. So, they're responding as quickly as they can with the hours they have as well. So this is a very tough situation.
So with 14 dogs in her yard today, 14 dogs in her yard today, in addition to her 4 dogs that she owns, there's nothing that you can do now. I understand that. How about making new rules about making a limit on how many animals that wee and poop outside can be on 1/8 of an acre, because only half of her property is fenced, and that's where all the animals are, to be included in the guidelines that could possibly be enforced. You can't see anything from her front yard. You'd have to be able to see into her backyard.
So I'm going to respond to that quickly, and then we are going to have to move on to other business. A village board has no legal authority to do that. There's nothing in the covenants on the properties that would allow us to do that, and basically attempting to do that would violate the covenants between the property owners and the community association. You know, animal control, the number of animals that can be kept on a property, how the animals can be kept on a property, that's all within the purview of the county.
So it's the county I need to address, not you all.
If it's the number of animals at a residence, if it's how they're being kept, how they're being treated, et cetera, that's all the county. The covenant authority we have over the properties just does not allow us to address that. If we tried, we would be in violation of our covenants.
Jonathan, can I just, John?
Yes.
Okay, just a quick thing. I remember that meeting with, I think it was Amy years ago.
Yes.
With the head of planning and zoning. And I think what I recall from it, and I'm wondering if this is something the board could consider, was there were 2 issues. One is enforcement and how aggressively or lack thereof the county was really enforcing the in-home business thing. The other thing was maybe I thought we were coming up with some potential changes to the actual county law or regulations. I don't recall which, but I thought there was some sense on the part of the board that needed to be strengthened. So I guess what I'm asking, because this is getting frustrating all over Columbia, is there a potential for this board to come up with, I don't know, Lynn, you're the expert on this, with, if we do have some changes to strengthen things, to do that and present it, ask for our county council member to come to the meeting and actually ask for changes, and a representative from Calvin Ball's office as well, and really push that, because I hear you saying, and they've said this to us, they only have 2 people. Well, they either have a law on the books and they either enforce it or forget about it. I mean, this is, you know, this isn't making sense. They need to enforce their laws. So is there a way we could do that as more of an advocate, not specific cases, but in general, this is our issue. I thought, Lynn, this was something you really felt strongly about.
I totally do. I totally do. And I'm frustrated about it on all of the occasions where I hear from residents, and in my own neighborhood, we've had a couple of businesses that or suspected businesses and have the same issue. And it's a very thorny issue. Putting, you know, we had Amy Gowan come. We've invited her to come again. We've invited her to come and meet with a couple of the residents who have issues similar to what Sheila's talking about. And we'll see where that goes. We have been pursuing it and we have been pushing it. We have not gone to Calvin Ball about it. I've gone to Calvin about other things, and you know, we'll see what happens in that area.
What about our council member too? Because they could, if it's legislative change, they could sponsor it. If it's
Well, if I recall, we actually thought that they were kind of hands tied legislatively, but once we had Amy in for that meeting, she, you know, she's, and we'd have to go back and look at the minutes, but I recall that I was quite surprised by what she was sharing, because it sounded like they have a lot more flexibility under the current laws than we realize they do. And their main challenge was they don't have the resources to exercise that flexibility. So like I said before, I think it might be more about petitioning our county government to, find more resources towards zoning enforcement versus changing any laws. They have the laws behind them. They just don't have the people to enforce them.
Okay, so can we be more of an advocate in terms of really trying to get them to put another?
Well, yeah, I don't think that's something to be kind of decided during resident speak out, but I take your point, and I think we can discuss that, at a future point under other business at the board.
Thank you.
All right, looks like we have one more resident for speak out. I'm assuming this is the Mike half of Mike and Sophie?
Yes, you are correct. Thank you. So I just wanted to speak about the Orchard Hill pathway across into the Red Branch Business Center. I live in Oakland Mills, and I like going to shops on my bicycle or walking if I can. And I think other residents would like it if there was an easier way to get over there. So I was noticing I normally cross the road at Meadowbrook and Bendix, and then there's some trails on the other side I can pick up. But courthouse going in, I'm noticing a bit more traffic there, and I don't even think it's complete yet. But I think when the courthouse is complete, then that crossing is going to be a little bit busier. So I'd just really like to offer my encouragement to the board to really hopefully consider, going forward with this project, because I think it would be used, and I think people would enjoy having an option where they would have a crosswalk on a non-busy section of the road where the traffic would absolutely be stopped so they could get across. And then it's right in the heart of the business community there. So that's just all I really wanted to say, but I really hope that we can move forward on that, because I know Columbia is a green community and we want to do green things. And I think this would be a very good green project to complete. So thank you for your time and listening to me.
Thank you. All right, I think that concludes resident speak out. Going next on the agenda is new business. We have one new business item, and that's the CA fiscal 23 budget request from Oakland Mills. So since this is new business, this is the initial conversation. After this conversation, the members of the board can take a couple of weeks to think about what we've discussed. We might get feedback from residents, and then we can bring this back as old business at the next meeting to see if we want to make any final decisions. I'm going to share a screen here, I hope. So what you should see in front of you, I hope, is the CA approved budget schedule for fiscal 23 engagement process. So CA is in the listen and collect phase, which it looks like it runs until maybe sometime in September. And then there's some synthesis and analysis, followed by some engagement and revisions, followed by some more synthesis, followed by, I guess, some more engagement. So we're definitely getting in during the listen and collect stage. And as Ginny has mentioned, CA has said that we don't necessarily need to send in our traditional budget request or budget position, but we thought it's probably a good idea that we continue to do that since CA is listening and collecting. So on my next tab here, I thought one thing we should probably start with is it was just less than 2 months ago on June 28th that we came up with our Oakland Mills priorities for CA. And I like the old saying that your budget reflects your priorities. So I thought this might be a good starting point if we're talking about, what we might want to petition CA to invest in either here in Oakland Mills or across Columbia. That's just my thought on the matter to get the conversation going. And now I'll open up the floor to the board to see if anyone would like to weigh in.
Well, I think we'll have some residents pleased with the third priority there.
Yes.
Right. One of the things is for the management contract, I think we might want to consider putting in some kind of support for under the current management contract, investing in the village's with any excess cash reserve or some, we might want to think about what we want to do, but we might want to, it is a budgetary item. Possibly. Anyway, I'm just throwing that out there, Jonathan.
So that seems to be what's happening with the cash reserve this year. Is that, Ginny, do you know whether that's that's to last the duration of the
No.
contract, or, okay, so we basically what
No.
we're asking for is an amendment to the contract that would,
No, 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 no. Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry. May I go?
oh yeah, I was trying to clarify with Sandy what we're asking for.
Okay, I like what Sandy's saying. I think that's something this board, or certainly Jonathan, you and I have talked about a lot, and I like the idea. I tried getting that type of proposal passed, especially for a broad issue of environmental issues, very broad. I had amended it to be very broad. And that didn't pass. I think it was 4 votes for it and 6 against, or maybe 1 abstention. What did pass is sort of a general thing about environmental improvements, but not all the specific areas we went into. And it's only for this year. However, Sandy's point, and Jonathan, I know you've been suggesting this too, and others on the board, is it would be part of the new contract. What I wanted CEA board to do, but they felt it was premature, is to vote for it as something that should be in a parking lot and be considered for the new negotiation, so you don't lose the idea. Some of them just felt it was premature. They didn't want to do that this soon. So I tend to agree that I think it would be great if this board were to consider it, and I'd be happy to send my amendment, which covers a lot of things, electric chargers, well, just a huge number of things they could be used for. But this would be the village working with CA, and the money would remain in the village. So I'd love to see this board consider that, and consider suggesting that that would be something you want them to consider in the new contract when that comes up, which I think, Sandy, that's next year or the year after?
No, it would be, this one goes through FY24.
Yeah.
So
right.
I was suggesting that I think the exact way it's spent is probably beyond, that would be another big discussion, but that by the time we send our request to CA, that we ask that they continue through the duration of this contract to reinvest any cash reserves over the 20% back into the village that's contributing. And then it probably would be a bigger discussion under old business as to the exact wording.
Okay, well, we've approved that.
Yeah, but it was only for this FY22.
Yeah, so this is for FY23.
I see you're extending it next year. And
Yeah, FY23 and hopefully FY24.
Okay, I think that's what I tried getting. I think that's a great idea. And
All
if
right.
you look at additional wording, I'd be happy to send that to you. Okay, thank you.
So Sandy, can you take a shot at drafting that one for our consideration under old business in a couple of weeks?
Yeah.
We'll put that one on the list. And then I see Lynn's hand up.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions just about the last bullet point and the next to the last bullet point. So the one, perform, let's start with the third from the bottom. That one, yeah. Perform a consultant-led community engagement process. Isn't that what CA has been doing this past year with their strategic planning and all of that? So I'm wondering, are we asking a continuation of that, or are we asking to restart it again in a different way? I'm not clear with that. And with the last one also, consult with Oakland Mills to plan the next phase of the tot lot program. I think that's an ongoing thing that CA is doing. Am I not right about that? So I guess, Jenny, both of those are questions for you.
I am going to be talking about the tot lot, what's happening with CA with the tot lots. You're absolutely correct. Process to evaluate seed. Well, we don't want to hire a consultant at this point, and that I don't think it's needed and it's a lot of money, but we certainly have been engaged in that process. We've had consultants before engaged in that process, and we have out of that a lot of material you can look at, a strategic plan. We've changed a lot of things, our mission, our vision, et cetera. So
Right. Correct. I just assumed that was an ongoing process, and I didn't know that is it really a new thing that we want as a priority, or is it something that we just want to, yay, CA, you're doing that.
This was actually something that Bill contributed last time, and I see he has his hand up, so I was going to call on him. But Bill, before I go to you, I wanted to say something about this list and specifically the tot lot. I didn't intend for us to copy this verbatim into the budget request. When I said, your budget reflects your priorities, some priorities don't need to be funded in fiscal 23. And to me, unless something is happening with the tot lots that requires money, the purpose of that last bullet I recall from the meeting when we established this was we knew that CA had done that first round of evaluation. They came in and they presented to us right before everyone went home for the pandemic. And we just wanted to ensure that we were reminding CA that we're here and we want to work together instead of having another one of those situations that sort of started the whole tot lot thing where they came in and said, we've decided no one uses this and we're closing it. We're informing you. So it was more about having two-way communication and consulting with us to make sure that it stayed on their radar. It really wasn't about a budget request at that point.
I think that's a great idea to keep that in there, Jonathan, the last one, yeah.
Well, it's a priority. Are you saying keep it in as a budget thing?
Right on this list, leave it on the list as a priority.
Oh yeah, we're not changing this list.
Yeah, but I don't know that it translates into a formal budget request for any sum of money. I think it's still just a priority. So maybe what we could consider is when we send in our budget request, we also reattach our priorities, as an addendum, just to remind them that we also had the following priorities when, you asked back in June, just to keep everything on the radar. And now, Bill, I'm sure you're sitting there very patiently wanting to say something about the community, the consultant-led engagement, right?
Yes, if I can. The reason I initiated that, I guess, 2-3 years ago, was that CA twice within the last, 10 years, very suddenly came up with, hey, we need to change from an HOA to a community services association or a community benefits association. I think those were the two terms that we used in 2 separate years. And they were, in my opinion, thrown upon the community very quickly. They were to try to address some issues, financial issues, et cetera, within CA, but they were major in terms of their impact on all of us, because we wouldn't have an HOA, we'd become another entity, and a lot of the, say, rights that we have as with it being an HOA would disappear. And my concern is that CA had tried that twice, and we're vulnerable to that happening again and again, potentially. And my concern has been that CA, even though within the last year have done a lot of analysis and a lot of brought in consultants and looked at vision statements, mission, and everything, underlying all of that is the assumption that CA is fine as it is, and now we're just going to make ourselves better. My point is that we need to do a full evaluation of what should CA be. Okay, should it continue as an HOA or be a CSA, CBA, incorporated city, or should CA disappear, sell its assets to the county? That my concern is we're not looking at what are we, what should we be, should we disappear, et cetera. I get the feeling, my personal opinion is we're continuing on like Montgomery Ward's and Sears Roebuck did for over 100 years each. Innovative initially, like CPRA created by Jim Rouse, but then over time, CA hasn't changed much at all. We were pretty much the same as we were when we were created. and the world is changing around us. And we're even looking at HOCO by design, potentially, maybe, and I don't know, looking at even getting rid of Newtown zoning classification. Potentially that could be an outcome, I don't know, but it's been discussed, I know that. And so I was looking at, look, before we continue going on like Sears Roebuck and Montgomery Wards, let's take a time out and look at where we really are, what we need to be. We've talked often about the county does things for taxpayers in other areas of the county, but not for Columbia, okay, before and after care, many other things. I think it's time to grab all those bulls by the horn and do a complete analysis from the get-go, just like you would do a zero-based budget, okay? Where instead of taking last year's budget and fine-tuning it and tweaking it for next year, which is kind of what I think CA has done as an organization over time, what we need to do is take a zero-based budgeting approach to CA is who should we be? What should we be? Should we be at all? Okay. And so that was my focus on that. And the fact that twice in the last 10 years, there's been a real quick knee-jerk reaction by CA to potentially change from an HOA to a CBA or CSA, et cetera, and do it very quickly. So there's not time for all of the residents to really evaluate options, look at this, give input, et cetera. My thought was, well, before the next crisis occurs, let's do that evaluation in a very neat, orderly fashion. So that's my thinking behind this, and that's why I submitted that one. Then the bottom line one, consult Oakland Mills to plan the next phase of the tot lot pilot program in Oakland Mills. Before COVID, we had an agreement with CA and Oakland Mills that there would be a pilot program, a tot lot evaluation, et cetera, in Oakland Mills that could then eventually be extended to all of Columbia. And the first phase of that was a baseline of tot lot facilities and assets that we have now. And if I remember correctly, 2 or 3 members of CA Open Space did a presentation to the board in the Smithy on that. And then the next steps, and I submitted as co-chair of Open Space Advisory Committee, submitted, hey, here's a lot of different next steps that we can take, need to take. And I wanted to work hand in glove with CA Open Space on that process for all of our tot lots. And I know with COVID and the budget slash and all that, we just dropped it and I understood it. But now as we begin to work back to normal, although the CA budget isn't anywhere near normal, that we don't lose sight of this, and that as we're able to financially go to that next phase of that program, I want to make sure that that's still on CA's radar, it's on mine, and I want to work with them hand in glove as to the next steps. And I want to get our Open Space Advisory Committee involvement on that pilot program. So that was the impetus behind the last bullet point. Thank you. I've said a lot. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. Ginny?
Sorry, I muted. I think Bill's made an excellent case for both of these, and it allows for flexibility for Oakland Mills Village Board and residents to decide whether to move ahead on these issues, at least certainly the last issue, or not. So it gives you more options, and you are the first pilot, so that could have some real potential for the budget in your favor. So if it's agreeable, so I think it's good. I think both, yeah, I think both make sense to me now.
All right, so it sounds like funding this engagement is something we want to put in our draft for the next discussion. Tot lot, at the very least, we want to remind it is a priority, if not a budget item, because right now there's not really something to fund other than making this, continuing to make the staff available. The restroom on the second floor of the other barn, I would propose that we change this a little bit and we remove without reduction of event space and instead describe it the way we seemed pretty happy with when we all met up at the other barn. What was it, about 3 or 4 weeks ago? For those who weren't there, Sandy, Ginny, Bill, and I. Was anyone else there? I don't think so. We met with Dennis Matty and CA staff and kind of did a walk around the loft of the other barn. and determined that while, not reducing event space would be ideal, structurally, that would be very difficult. It would basically mean building a two-story addition onto the other barn somewhere. And, having that bathroom on the second story while doing, we don't know what with the first story. But as we walked around, if you picture yourself walking in from the silo, picture looking, looking all the way down the loft to the back door that you would go out to go down the back stairs or the lift. And then picture that area to the left of that door, kind of where Santa sits at breakfast with Santa. They could basically go out to the first roof support and kind of build a long, narrow restroom there. The door would open, toward the opposite wall rather than opening into the event space itself. It would be right there near the handicapped entrance, because it would be right there near the elevator. So for, any events where, we do have people with disabilities who need access to the elevator, they, basically the seating could be arranged so that they're right near the accessible restroom, as well as near the elevator that they would need to use. And, those of us that were there that day felt that that was a decent solution, because it minimizes the amount of event space we lose. I think Brigitte estimated maybe a table. It minimizes the impact on the appearance of the loft and, kind of the flow of traffic through the loft and the flow of events. And it still gives us that upstairs restroom without, what would probably be an undertaking that isn't going to get, funded or completed anytime soon, if we're talking about literally building an addition onto the other barn for a restroom. So with all that said, I would propose that if we're going to continue to ask for the restroom in the budget request, we do amend this and ask for the plan that Dennis and his folks are drawing up following that meeting at the other barn a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I agree. The only thing is, I think they're looking at either side based on the big sewer line. That's all, but it's still in the rear.
Yeah. I mean, to me, either side doesn't matter,
Yeah,
because
either
they're
side.
basically mirror images of each other. It's,
Yeah.
just whether.
I'll just say either side based on the,
Yeah.
water hookup.
Yeah,
Yes.
or just at the rear, or however you want to describe that
Yeah.
area. Yeah.
Okay, that's good.
Okay. Warren and I are going to talk a bit more about this, and I think we'll have good reason to leave this one on here. The other thing that's not on here that I wanted to bring up, I know this was a rather popular subject a while back, and it's going to come up again and again. Thank you, Ginny, for getting language out there when there was discussion about the pools, about how the pools that are temporarily closed, will open again someday. This isn't going to lead to anything permanent. Obviously, one of the challenges CA has had in opening the pools is not just the pandemic, but actually being able to staff them, getting lifeguards. So I do think that CA really needs to start thinking now about, what the appropriate market rate is for lifeguards, that they can start, setting pay and planning for that, so they can get the lifeguards they need going into next season if they're going to talk about opening all 23 pools. So if we're still concerned about getting the Talbot Springs pool back, as well as the other pools throughout Columbia that are closed, to me, that's something we should put on the radar, because that's not just a pandemic problem, that's a budget problem. If you need to attract a labor force with the right amount of pay.
Mhm. Got it.
Ginny? Ginny, you muted yourself again.
Sorry. It's not only lifeguards, it's also assistant managers and managers that.
Aquatic staff.
What?
Aquatic staff.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you say, yeah, I always refer to it as lifeguards, but I've learned since that it's 3 levels of staff that are very, very difficult to get. We had an opportunity, well, I'm trying to think how to say this. Sometimes one of the problems also is location of where the lifeguards, assistant managers and managers want to work. and where they're, if the parent decision is relevant or controlling, where the parents will allow their adult children, I mean, adolescent children to work, is starting to be an increasing problem that we've got to figure out how to work with. So that's, you don't have to worry about that, but I'm just trying to give you the whole picture of what's been happening in terms of trying to open 2 additional pools, and we're only, Lakey was only able to open 1 of them, which is unfortunate. And it wasn't for economics with the second pool. So, okay. So,
Okay, all right.
so it's Sandy's suggestion about aquatic staffing would be good. So look at the salaries of aquatic staffing, which covers all 3 categories.
Yeah, and maybe even beyond that, I don't know. I don't know what challenges you have. So Ginny, maybe you can think about it and advise, but does CEA need to do more or different advertising of the positions earlier or something like that? Put more resources into advertising the positions early on, maybe to expand the reach of your recruiting to get lifeguards in and aquatic staff in for the summer. I don't know. I'm really just going off of what you said about all the challenges that CA had in just being able to staff the pools if it were to open all of them. Oh, Ginny, you muted again.
Again, I'm trying to keep you from listening to Chuck what he's watching on TV, as long as it's not the Orioles losing. But at any rate, yeah, and we can have a discussion if you want, have Marty come out and explain all, because we've raised this as a board and all the areas that he advertises, et cetera. And many of you and I have tried to recruit people and send the word out. So it worked up to a point. But it's apparently getting more complicated, especially with the fear of the virus, the fear of other things. So it's gotten more complicated than it was in the old days. But if you have any, if you want to.
Oops.
Oh, we lost Ginny. We lost your sound again.
Want to have Marty come out and hear that, or if you have any suggestions, boy, if you advertised here, we've got to continue to improve that. I agree, and do it earlier when we know we have the money.
Maybe you need to do exactly what I'm planning to do with the Board of Education. Just threaten to put some of your middle-aged and beyond board members up on the lifeguard chairs. No one wants to see that. They'll come rushing for those jobs.
Oh my God.
No.
Jonathan, which pool are you taking so we can avoid it?
I'll take Talbot Springs. I like it there.
Okay.
All right, Bill.
Just real quick on the issue of hiring younger folks. I work for Howard County Rec and Parks in the recreation licensed childcare. I do before care at Gorman Crossing Elementary. And I just got Saturday the staffing at all of the schools, elementary schools, where we have before and after care. And the staffing levels are way down from what they were pre-COVID. They've had a lot of trouble hiring. They're advertising everywhere. They've told us if we know anybody, talk with them. We need to hire more staff. So it's not an issue isolated to just CA, it's widespread.
Right.
All right. Anything else to discuss before we bring these back under the old business in a couple of weeks? All right, so we'll get what we have so far written up and circulate it so the board can look at it and think about it over the next couple of weeks, and then we'll have the old business discussion on it. All right, moving along to old business. Oh, Zoom is like really being friendly now with pop-ups telling me everything I'm doing. Yes, I know I've stopped screen sharing.
Wait, I'm sorry, Jonathan. One more thing that I just thought about
sure.
for the priority list that we just closed down. We've kind of talked about a little bit before, but I just noticed it for the first time the other day. And maybe this isn't something CA can even do that much about, but the electric charging station at the other barn is like hidden in on the back side, and there's just the one. And it really should be CA's policy across the board to have visible, useful charging stations outside the ice rink specifically, but more noticeable at the other barn. I don't know if that's something that we would consider pushing them to consider.
They'd also, like, I know the one in the back is tied into our electrical units, which are all back there.
Gotcha.
So
I was
that-
just
that
thinking
had-
like, I wouldn't want to park my car back here on the dark corner of the parking lot and then walk all the way around to use the stores on the other side.
Well, they're
Even
not
come
there
into
for
the other
s-
barn.
They're for the other barn, but there's only one car that's ever been there, and it's always the same car. And it's a single female who lives in Shadow Oaks.
Jessica.
Yeah.
That's, I've never seen another car.
It
Oh,
could be
yeah.
because no one knows it's there though. So
Well, they-
Yeah, for
Um,
the moment. And it's like in kind of a sketchy spot.
I don't want
Um,
to say that because that's where everyone parks for all of our events, and there's a camera.
I'd have to check with Dennis. Usually he would consult with an association
He did.
before he
Yeah.
makes the decision.
Yeah.
So, okay, so I think what you're saying is, maybe we need to look at a second one near the ice rink or
Over
something.
by the ice rinks, I think would
Oh,
make
yeah.
a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But I don't know about, yeah, we can look into that and, and that's one of the areas I wanted to get some of the money used for, but anyway, okay.
So we can put in the budget that we encourage additional EV chargers in
Yeah.
Yeah.
prominent locations near CA facilities.
I think that's a good way of putting it, because why not the pools and neighborhood centers too? You know,
Yeah.
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 They have them at the pool in Hickory Ridge, I think.
Well, I can say it all CA facilities. Let them figure it out.
Yeah.
By the way, I did send a note to Cedar a while back now about, would they consider putting an EV charger or two in their parking lot? And I got the typical Cedar response of, interesting, we'll look into that and get back to you.
Got
I'll
that
let-
one down pat, don't they?
I'll let you know how old I am when they get back to me. All right. Anything else on that?
No,
All right, now
sorry.
we're really moving to old business. Okay, so old business, Orchard Green, Tot Lot Path along Route 108 to Red Branch Road. That got interesting over the past couple of weeks. Warren and I both had conversations with Dennis Matty. Sandy, I know you exchanged emails with Chris Etal, because we kind of thought that this was a CA/state of Maryland thing, because Route 108 is a state road, so the crosswalk is the state and the path is CA. And then we, kind of got surprised because it sounds like maybe the county does play a role in all of this. And I don't know, Warren, did you want to kind of do the summary of what happened over the past couple of weeks?
Right. I talked to Dennis Matty, a while ago at the 4th of July event at the bike corral. And he said, yeah, this would be a great thing, and he's all for it. And, but I guess he learned a few things about some plans for he called it a sidewalk along the south side of 108, which is, if you look at the bike master plan, which was created in 2016, there is a shared use path that is proposed long-term along the south side of 108. And I think that's what he's referring to. So he'd like to wait and connect, as I understand it, his path to that.
Which is the south side, the Thunder Hill side?
That's
or
on the
Red
Thunder
Branch?
Hill side.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Where
Actually,
you want this?
correct.
Okay, I just need my norths and souths.
No, that's cool. And so that kind of muddied the waters. So I'm not really sure at this point. I talked to him very briefly. He seemed a little chagrined that he couldn't do that. There you go. So you'll see the south side is that blue line that Jonathan is pointing to. And Orchard Green is, can you point to Orchard Green, Jonathan?
I'm
Other
trying
way.
right
It's
here.
there,
It's right
to your
there.
There it
left.
is, right
Right
there.
there. So the idea, just I guess north, or is that east of Orchard Green, is the tot lot. And there's a path that leads to it. And then the idea is it would go, there's a break in the fence. And you can go up to basically along the blue line up to, if you move your arrow up, Jonathan, to Red Branch, there's a light there, and that's where we would run the path. And that would connect all of Thunder Hill to all those businesses. And Jim Caffey actually did a look through all the businesses along Red Branch and along 108 inside of Red Branch. And he identified 33 businesses that would probably benefit extremely well with a crosswalk, allowing people to cross there. Because from my house, I live on Patriot Lane on Thunder Hill, it takes me an extra mile to get to the point where Jonathan's arrow is right now. So if we added that path, that would take 20 minutes off of just a one-way walk, or 40 minutes off a round trip to, say, just go to the grocery store or somewhere like that. So instead of being a 10-minute walk to Village Lock and Key, it would take me an hour. So, well, 30 minutes one way or an hour round trip. So the other thing, I made a list of all the businesses that I have in the last year walked to, and I jaywalk on a regular basis across 108. And they are my dentist on Columbia 100, Giant grocery store. I went to the Howard High for a county meeting. I've been to Popeyes, the Royal Farms, Exxon, Village Lock and Key. I got a gift card from the Pro Wash Auto Spa. I go to the Masala Bazaar, which is great naan. It's an Indian restaurant, Indian grocery store. And I've been to Sapwood Cellars. So there are lots and lots of businesses that would benefit, and people, our neighborhood would benefit from having that connectivity. And as you heard, several people are in favor of this as well. The other thing I have learned from my daughter, I told her about, oh, did you know that there's a break in the fence near the tot lot at Orchard Green? And she said, yeah, Dad, I knew that back when I was a teenager before I could drive, and all my friends went across that way to Shadowland and to the grocery store or whatever, all the stores up there. And then she said, my brothers both did it as well, and all their friends. So people are going across and using this path now. And I'm concerned that if we don't do something about it, that somebody's going to get hurt. But the problem is it's a chicken and egg thing. As Dennis said, because there isn't a path, there isn't any kind of a sidewalk or connector on the south side, the state, which I got a letter and they said they'd be glad to put in a crosswalk, but they need some sort of a path or sidewalk to receive the other end of the crosswalk. So that's the issue right now.
So the new thing I learned from this is I didn't realize that the county does the sidewalks along state routes. I thought this was all the state.
I didn't know that either.
And I mean, anyone who's worked with me on the board for a while knows I get really frustrated when everyone's pointing at each other, waiting for the other person. That's why we still don't have a streetscape on Stevens Forest Road. So my thought on this is, if CA and the state wait on the county, you can tell by the legend here that this path is long-term.
Right.
They don't define long-term, but I would say that's long-term.
It's like 30 years.
Yeah, I think I think what we should be doing is taking the position and getting in touch with our county council representative, our state delegation. Obviously, CA is already involved, and saying, hey, look, work together and get this piece done. Because I think what the county could do here, if you look at the distance we're talking about, here's Orchard Green, here's the intersection. They don't have to build this whole thing, but if they're eventually going to build it anyway, if CA is willing to do its part, if the state's willing to do its part, then just build the part that connects them, and then build the rest later. I don't want to just settle for waiting for the county to do its thing, because we can tell what the county's plans are here. They're long term, so it's not going to happen for anyone within the next few years to enjoy if we just, and I'm not blaming Dennis here at all, but if we say, Dennis,
Yeah.
you make a very good point, we'll wait. I understand why Dennis wants to wait, and I agree with him. There's no reason for CA to build a path to nowhere, but there's also no reason for CA to build a path to nowhere. The county could do a little section of this path right now, and it would connect to a CA path. It would connect to a straight crosswalk, and it would bring more traffic to other Howard County businesses. So to me, that's a win all around, and I think that's what we should be going for at this point.
I agree. And I think we as a board should support this and then push and try to push it forward, and then push, like you said, Dr. Jones' office to coordinate this and get this moving. So if I can I move that we that this body supports extending the pathway from Orchard Green to the Village Green tot lot in however way we can, but we're in support of it.
I think we're already there. I don't.
Do we need to vote for it?
No, that's already our position. I think now we just need to work out, the additional details of what we want to do now that we have more information. So I mean, we could, but I don't think we need another vote in support of this. We already support it. We thought we had supported it with the right people, and now it turns out there's another entity that we need to, get on the record with. So I think it's just a matter of getting on the record with all three of those entities with a specific proposal, so that the answer isn't going to be, oh, we're waiting for the other guy.
Do we need to also talk to our state delegates as well?
I mean, I don't think it would hurt to copy them on anything we're sending to the county, but if the state is already on board with the crosswalk and they're just waiting for the county to do its thing, much like CA is waiting for the county to do its thing, I think the most important thing is to get the county on board as soon as possible.
Okay.
But if you think that the people at the staff level in the state are, committing to things that they may not have the funding to do, then yeah, I think we should get our state delegation involved as well. But it sounded to me as if the state was ready to go, because it's basically just striping a crosswalk across 108.
I agree. And I did get a letter from, I think you were, an email. I think you were carbon on it, Jonathan. Maybe they didn't. I don't know if they replied as but they said they supported this. They supported connectivity of neighborhoods, and they supported this project. So looks like we have lots of hands up.
Yep. Ginny, and then Rebecca, and then Sandy is the order I see.
Okay, couple of real quick points. When Dennis called me about, I don't know, a week ago, and he had concerns, and I had not known about or heard about the sidewalk at all until Dennis called. And I said to him, well, do we have any issues with that path? The gas line, is that a problem? He said, no, he didn't see that as a problem. So, okay. Do we have any issues with the, budget? Is this going to be extremely expensive, which I didn't think it would be? He said, no, that's not it. So I said, I wanted him to go talk to you, Jonathan, and to Warren to talk to you about what the issue is and see what you guys thought. So that's about it. So I think we should involve the state legislators as well, just to put some pressure on the county, frankly, as to get this done. And I agree with you that I don't see why they got to do, I don't know how many miles that is to 108. It would be real nice if they did, but if they could just get enough of it, the sidewalk in there so that you can get this connection, that would be ideal. So,
Yeah, and Ginny, by the way, first of all, thank you. And second, Dennis and I did have a very good and productive conversation. And that's why I'm saying, I'm not blaming Dennis in any of this. He made what seems to be a logical choice given what he had, but he also said, yeah, if we can get, the county going on its thing, he'd be ready to go.
yeah. I just want to make sure you understood there are no
Yeah,
issues with
yeah.
CA, the gas or anything else. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. He said the same thing to me. He said there's really no issue. He just needs to get whatever it is. I think it's probably about 50 yards of sidewalk, or it's not really a sidewalk. It's a shared use path. Jonathan, if you click on that thing, I think it says shared use. Shared
Yep.
use path. It's not a sidewalk. Yeah,
Oh, that makes it cheaper, right?
I believe so. It also makes it
Or-
more useful. It might be wider because
Yeah,
then
it's
you can
probably
have,
more expensive.
Really?
because you'll have, it'll be wider so that bicycles and pedestrians can both share the path.
Well,
It's not-
yeah, and it depends. I mean, if it's going to be, sidewalks are usually concrete, which is a more expensive material. If it's wider, but it's also asphalt, it might all net out. I don't know.
Right. But he said the cost of he called it a sidewalk would be trivial. And he said it's really not. He said it might be, a couple thousand or a little bit more than that, but it's not going to be, anywhere near something that should be a budget issue.
Wait a minute, didn't the county executive, oh, I hope I'm not wrong about this, just give Parks and Recreation 8 million to improve their path system and something else? What was it in the paper, a press release?
It was for park improvements. Yeah, I don't know if it was specific to paths, but it did go to recreation and parks.
The path is,
That would be a path.
it would certainly be a path, no.
So it sounds like to me, why don't I try to organize to get Dr. Jones and maybe Chris Etoff and maybe someone from the county exec's office and even a state representative or two to come out and see the site and talk about it, maybe get them moving forward.
Mhm.
Does that sound like a plan?
Yeah. I think
That would work for me. I know
Okay.
Rebecca and Sandy have hands raised, so let me call on Rebecca and then Sandy.
The only thing I wanted to say is, Warren, you can add to your list. I rode across that every single day last week, twice a day, taking my kids to Idea Lab summer camp and the yoga studio right over there. So if you need more fodder for that list.
Thank you.
Oh,
But-
by the way, Warren, not Howard. We're not mentioning it makes it easier to get to Howard. Remember?
Oh, yeah, right. You did mention
Makes
that.
it
Yeah.
easier for Howard to get to Oakland Mills High School.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe leave off the yoga studio then, so CA doesn't worry about detracting from the gyms. But Idea
Good
Lab
point.
is an awesome resource.
All right, Sandy.
Okay, so my thing, can you show me again, Jonathan, where the cursor of the exact path that you're proposing?
So Warren, is this it? Is this the tot lot area here?
Yes, it's just to the right. There's a house and then there's a big lot. See the two houses on Orchard Green have a
Yeah.
big space. I think that dot is the tot lot.
Yeah.
That's what I'm thinking.
So the path runs up there, runs up the hill to that tot
Okay.
lot. And then from there, it would
Right
run
up to the lake.
to that
So what
blue
I
thing.
think
Right.
is in any of the correspondence, you need to mention the distance in feet or whatever, because that's very small. So that, we want to emphasize that we are just asking for a short
Yeah.
distance of pathway.
Does
So
it-
that
does-
it puts it into perspective.
Does anyone have one of those measuring wheels that they use when they're going over ground to measure distances?
Well,
we
CA
could
has one
just
possibly.
measure
we
it,
can
yeah.
borrow.
I did pace it off when this all started, and it's about 100 yards.
I mean, I
And
would
the-
put that in because that's so minuscule compared to so many projects that we need to always mention it.
Okay,
That's
that's
all
a
I have to
that's a
say.
good point.
And Warren, I mean, do you, I think we should do this as a, like a formal invitation, from the board on our letterhead.
Okay,
Just to show them that we're all behind this and we mean business, versus somebody just calling Opal Jones's office and saying, hey, meet me, meet me on 108. I want to show you something. I know you wouldn't do it that way, but
right,
I mean,
right.
I think the more we can show that we're all behind this, the better. You take the lead, but maybe work with Sandy on putting together like a more formal, request for a meeting out there.
That sounds good. Okay, I'll do that.
Oh, this doesn't help. I'm not in satellite view. I was going to try to. Yeah, that's just where it is. There's the
Yeah, I
little,
knew it, but I just wanted to make sure, and also it's
Yeah.
such a small distance.
You can
Yeah.
even see the fence opening.
Yeah,
Yep.
there's the
Yeah,
gap.
I
in the-
drive by it every day.
actually, I thought Google, I can't do this live. I actually thought Google had a way that you could draw lines and estimate distance, but I won't be able to do that live during a meeting.
Okay.
But yeah, it's not far, that's for sure. It's, you're talking about, basically a few squares of sidewalk or a little bit of path. We're not asking them to build the whole long-term connector multi-use path that they're talking about.
Mhm.
Right, right.
Jonathan, the county interactive map, you can get the distance very quickly.
Okay. I've done it here before. I'll just never figure it out while we're looking at this. It's, never do things live. All right. Anything else on that item? All right. Let me stop sharing again. Next on the agenda is the HCPSS capital budget testimony to the Board of Education on August 12th. So for members of the board, I circulated that to you over the weekend, and then I recirculated it like 3 more times because Ginny and I kept finding things I screwed up, including my punctuation and missing words problems. And, they were recovered unharmed and put back into the document, as I said in the email. So obviously, this is the testimony I propose. Obviously, we have a pool party at Thunder Hill, so I do fully intend to bring my laptop to Thunder Hill, and we've already started encouraging others who are attending the pool party to go ahead and testify from the pool party. And I think the other thing we can try to do at the pool party for those who aren't testifying is just try to get people, into the picture as much as we can. Sort of like if you go to an actual Board of Education meeting and you have the people in the audience holding up their signs or doing this to indicate they support the speaker, to show that the numbers are bigger than just, one person standing up saying, I'm representing OMCA. Well, here's the membership of OMCA behind me. They know we're here doing this. And of course, any members of the board can, join me right there. However many people can fit into my camera angle here, we'll try to do. So was there any other feedback, any other comments on the proposed testimony? We get 5 minutes. I really just don't think it's necessary to use 5 minutes. We're not, all those statistics and facts and everything, they know all that. I mean, they probably know more than we do, as a matter of fact, because, we're only privy to the public documents. So I really think it is just about, hammering home that they have responsibilities to their, to their students, their, their faculty and staff, everyone who needs to use those buildings, as well as people who aren't in those buildings because they're keeping them in overcrowded buildings rather than putting them in ours.
Jonathan, I think this is an excellent statement, and I think it's very effective, and I think it's probably the right length. And I think it's important that you put the $160 million deferred maintenance in there, but the rest of it, all the other statistics, like you said, kind of just muddy the water. But I think it's a powerful a message.
Yeah, the two, thank you, Warren. The two statistics, that I think are important to keep hammering home to them and also just to others who are listening. are the 160 million and the 20%, because that's a lot of money and a lot of and a huge proportion on 2 buildings in a system that has over 70 buildings. All right, anything further on that? All right, Sandy, if you could take out my red comment to myself and put this on letterhead, because I do have to send it ahead to Kathy Hanks. So they have a copy of it for the record, and then we'll plan on delivering this from the pool party Thursday.
Yeah, and just thank you, Jonathan, for taking leadership on this as always, as you have been.
Of course.
Mhm, mhm.
I'd like to say it's my pleasure, but my pleasure would be to see them just take care of this so I don't have to do it anymore.
One day.
All right. Next up is I don't know if we really have an update on this, and I know Councilman Jones's staff isn't here with us tonight as they normally are. The transfer of the Cook Cemetery. I know a couple of Oakland Mills residents have been in discussions with Dr. Jones on that. I haven't heard from either of them in advance of this meeting, so unfortunately I can't report exactly where things are on that. But I think last time the discussion was, you know, should the board go on the record supporting that the Howard County government attempt to take over the ownership and responsibility for maintenance of that cemetery from Howard Hughes. So if we do want to go on that record, we can, or I can try to get an update from Mr. Fegan and or Ms. George to see if there's been any change in status. But I know that was the stated preference when we last met versus, you know, the alternative of potentially having CA take it over.
Yeah, I think we just continue and wait to hear from Dr. Jones's office to see
Okay.
where that stands.
I can
Okay.
add it as old business again. Hopefully we'll hear from them.
See what happens.
Yeah, and we can check in with them. You know, normally Ashley's here and she would just fill us in right away. So
Right.
we can always
I
send her a
can't,
note and ask where things are.
right. I can't anticipate that there would be any problem with that.
Yeah. All right. Then I will move on, unless there's any other discussion on old business. I will move on to the board chair report. And actually, I don't have a ton of stuff. Ordinarily, I would have thanked Sandy and Brigitte and everyone for a successful pool party last night, but I'll just thank them in advance for a successful pool party Thursday night. Thank you for keeping Oakland Mills safe and putting out messages to keep everyone informed, so we didn't have a lot of people stuck outdoors in a
Right.
pretty heavy thunderstorm. How's that?
Yeah.
We didn't have the party, but we kept everyone safe.
Yep.
I actually haven't received any recent updates on goings on at the Village Center. I know we're still, you know, waiting to see what comes in on Second Chance, for example. Sandy, as far as I know, we're still waiting to see what comes in on the proposed 7-Eleven, right?
Yeah, that
haven't
should
received
be very shortly.
Okay. All right. Very good. Really not a whole lot more from me tonight. I think I've already talked enough tonight. Ginny,
Hi,
you
Jonathan.
can have my time and yours.
No. I think it's getting late. I think people would prefer if I not even take my time. Okay. Just a couple of quick things. One, we will work on the electric charger location. To the budget, I am really glad that Oakland Mills Village Board has taken initiative and planning on sending a list of exactly what you want to CA. I think that's important because they're not going to do, as we said before, the usual system of asking the boards what they want and then responding to each item. They have, a different how we can get more feedback from everybody. The other thing that I'd like to promote is a new thing that our communications people came up with. It's Let's Talk. And there seems to be some confusion about it, but the object is to have people just get online and tell our marketing communication people anything they want about, very informal about Howard County, how they feel about things, how Columbia, not just CA, and of course, any suggestions about how CA can improve or whatever. But there's confusion. If you go on our website and look for Let's Talk, lots of luck. So you really have to go to columbiaassociation.org/conversation. And I've discussed this with Tim, the head, and they are looking at how they can make it easier to access it. If you get one of these cards, you can just scan it and you're there. Otherwise, if you type in the .org/conversation, you'll get right to this. But it's sort of a separate system. Don't ask me why. But that's how they set it up, and they are looking at merging it. So I'll try and promote that where anybody can have a say anytime they want. The other, and so in general, we talked about the budget. We want to get more and more input, and we also want to look at something I know Jonathan keeps talking about, and I'm really feel is really important, is maybe we get to a point where we give you some options. If you want this, these are the things that could be cut. So we're sort of keeping that in mind and looking at that, or these are the way you can fund it. General counsel, our general counsel left the end of April. They're still looking, and they're hoping to be able to get somebody in September. I was kind of hoping it would be August, but it looks like it would be hopefully in September. The other thing that I feel very strongly about, and I'll be able to present more information to the village board. I'm not sure how you'll feel about it because it could be somewhat of a threat to the village boards, but in order to promote more diversity on CA's advisory committees, I've asked the staff to look at how they're appointed. For example, the climate committee is appointed based on countywide, and it could be countywide. Mostly we want to get from Columbia, but it could be somebody with a certain expertise that they really need that happens to live in an out parcel or right outside Columbia. So, but we can then balance diversity as well as talents, et cetera, that we need on that committee. You can't do that very well when you got a committee that sort of self-appoints itself, but yet as an advisory committee to CA, or when I think it's more difficult, much more difficult when the village board appoints, because you just know Long Reaches needs somebody on X committee. But it may be what that committee really needs is one, diversity, or two, a certain expertise, or both. And the village board gets applicants that really don't meet either of those criteria. So I want to be able to get a proposal and present it to you guys and see what you think, because you would be giving up a certain amount of ability to recommend to committees. I know that can be very controversial, but we'll talk it through. Nothing's going to be done without you looking at it. And maybe there's a way we can massage it. Any questions on any of this? I can stop if you have any concerns, or yeah, Bill.
Just real quick on the Let's Talk campaign, less talk campaign. I think I saw something on that, either email somewhere a little bit ago. And my thought was less talk, more action, less talk, why? And if CA really wants to listen more, I think less talk is confusing and not what we really want. If CA is saying, hey, we want to listen to people about issues in Columbia, CA, and even beyond, and we want to improve communication, it's a two-way street, one talks, one listens, etc. My thought is less talk is not the best title for we want to listen more to all of you.
That's not, it's LET. apostrophe S.
Let's talk LETS.
Yeah,
Let's
Yeah.
talk. Okay, my fault then.
right,
I thought-
okay.
No, it wasn't your fault. It was my Bronx accent, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah, no, I
Okay.
knew that, yeah.
Let's.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm
So
sorry
forget about it. Forget about
about, but that's probably the way I said it. I'm sorry.
I want to
But-
talk to yous.
it.
All right.
Hey, you guys.
You guys, can I go ahead with my next topic? Okay, tot lots. Tot lots, I think could be exciting to look at. To backtrack a little, because you do get this, why are you picking on tot lots? Why is CA picking on tot lots? Okay. If you keep in mind that there was a point where, at least this is what I've heard, where CA didn't even have a capital budget. I cannot believe you can run an organization without a capital budget, but apparently CA got away with that for a long time. So they started that, and part of it was actually Milton's initiative to do an assessment of all of our facilities. But you start from the big ones, like our community centers, which people frequently confuse with neighborhood centers, but our big, the barn, the other barn, Stone House, Slayton House, all that, our big community centers are crucial. And so you would do those first. You would certainly do our clubs, early. And then you make a proposal as to what's needed and how do you go about funding it. Well, most of that's been done. Yes, there's ongoing maintenance work that's needed on a lot of them, et cetera, but most of that's been done. Supreme Sports Club, it didn't go all the way because we had to close down, but there's a little more funding needed there, but the athletic club is complete, so that's been done. So then you get to tot lots. That's the last remaining facilities or assets that we have that needed to be evaluated. So. And this is online. You can look at it. It's actually a citywide tot lot program. It's actually a very, very interesting document when you look at it. And I'm not going to take a lot of time going through all 20, 30 pages, but there's some great charts. There's great background here. But the objective is to provide information regarding CA tot lots inventory, which will be used by CA staff and villages and CA board as guidance for tot lot replacements. And then it goes on to several different categories. Historic perspective, inventory, ongoing operations and maintenance costs, about $1 million a year, existing conditions of the tot lots, replacement strategy, long-term capital costs, objectives, criteria. When you look at this, it'll give you a breakdown of, we had like 88 tot lots from 67 to 74. Then CA went and added another 87 tot lots from 75 to 2010. And the average size is about 600 square feet to 2,000 square feet. But the condition they're in, we've got some that are 97 tot lots are 20 years or older. 63 are between 10 and 20 years. And in many cases, they were using less effective wood equipment that's deteriorated and become actually dangerous in many tot lots. So there's a lot that has to be done about how do we look at the tot lots? Do we continue? Where are they located? Are they ADA accessible? In some cases, because of erosion, they're really not located in a good place. Then the other thing is things have changed. There's a chart here that shows you all of the other options available to people in terms of playgrounds for children between Howard County School System, located right next door, Howard County Parks and Recreation, take Blandair Park, Cedar Lane Park, etc. There's a chart here that's very interesting, and it shows all of it within, I think it's a mile radius. So 10-minute walk. So that's something that you want to take a look at in terms of what is the relevance of the current tot lot, if it's actually in poor condition, in a bad location, not being used, etc. what do? Do you spend a lot of money? And here's the chart that shows all that's now available that certainly wasn't available when Columbia started, but that is now available to residents of Columbia. So that's about it. We'll continue to work on it. There will be, of course, public meetings, et cetera, and we want to get your ideas. And I think Oakland Mills has an opportunity. We've actually studied with the board's support every tot lot in Oakland Mills. I think there was one where they were suggesting a possible alternative use to reinvent that tot lot. So that would be something the village board and the residents, and especially in the area surrounding that tot lot, could play a key role in, as to maybe you got something different you'd rather have for your neighborhood. It could be exciting, or it could be, don't touch my tot lot. I don't care, just spend 50, 60, 80, 100 grand. I want it, I want this done. I don't want to hear anything. So it could be an exciting time or not. Yes, Bill.
So
Real quick, Jenny, could you get me a paper copy of that? Because I can look online also, but a paper copy, if you could get me one, I appreciate it.
Yeah.
And
$5, I'll donate this to you.
hey, and what is that, okay, what's key is that going forward is that CA for our pilot in Oakland Mills engage with us and the open space people, and hand in glove going forward, because CA in the past has had the habit of, we do it and give it to you. And I don't want that on this at all. I want to be in on the ground floor and with them every step of the way. I've got the time now that the housing master plan is done, so that we can get resident input. And as an example, when we had issues with the Castile Court tot lot, Judy Gottsagen and Gary Witt and I interviewed about 20 residents. We prepared a questionnaire, et cetera. And I think we gave the board the overall results of that, so that we've done that kind of grassroots, boots on the ground work on even just one tot lot. We'd like to look at all of Oakland Mills. How do you go about that process, et cetera, and reevaluate where are we now and what's needed in the future, looking at competition, looking at more stringent safety standards, et cetera, et cetera. So glad to see that we've got that. And then I want to re-engage with Dennis now, if they're ready to move forward, re-engage with him on, let's take the next steps in the pilot.
Well, that's the point. I don't want to beat this to death, but I personally agree with what you're saying, in that I think it could be an opportunity for Oakland Mills to build on what you've already done. And since it's a tight budget, and it's going to be a tight budget for the next couple of years, hopefully there's no closing of gyms that occurs because of what's happening again. But they're going to take a while to get this budget back. So there's not going to be that much money for, well, I want my tot lot taken care of right away. So you do have this opportunity to say, well, what would be something that would work in Oakland Mills, to show the other villages that maybe their other options are not so bad, and maybe they're actually what the residents actually want and what the process would be. I think it could be exciting for Oakland Mills,
And I think the key is, as you said it a couple of times, process. That's the key thing I want to nail down and work with CA on, is what's the process?
Right.
Thanks.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lynn and Jonathan.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I read the report. I looked through it. It was very thorough. As you said, it was very interesting. It was very kind of enlightening. I had no idea about the issue with the wood preservatives and all of that. So that was interesting. But I have to say that I was very disappointed that the suggestion was, well, here's our alternative. It would cost this much to repair the existing wooden ones. It would cost this other amount to put in other wooden ones with different wood preservative. And then here's a solution. Here are these ready-made ones. And I think that they're pretty unimaginative solutions. I mean, thinking something that some company somewhere builds and ships out to you. I think there are so many really, if you go around to different communities, there are so many really interesting and imaginative play equipment solutions. I mean, everything from, there's something in Catonsville where it's just all used tires that kids can climb around on. I mean, things that are more kind of experiential for kids, things that take advantage of the surrounding environment. I mean, there are just a lot of solutions other than putting a metal or plastic playground equipment in I mean, that's kind of an outdated solution at this point in time. So my suggestion would be to really look at other possibilities, and you can even go to some of the design schools around, the schools of architecture, schools of design, and I know in DC these things are designs for them are contributed and built by community members and designed by volunteers. So I just would like to see something more interesting than we're going to get the plastic thing with the little wheel that a kid can pretend to drive something or whatever. So
Yeah,
that's my 2 cents.
rascal or something like that. I'd like to get back to Lynn, but Jonathan, and then Warren.
So there was just one thing I wanted to point out and I kind of raised a light objection to this when they came in and talked to us in Smithy before the pandemic. I agree it's reasonable to look at option, other options, other outdoor play options that have kind of grown up around the tot lots. The only, and I haven't been able to look at this in detail, so maybe they've done it, but the only thing I would caution is, you can't, I hope CA doesn't take those other options and basically treat them as the equivalent to tot lots when it comes to availability. For example, our elementary schools in here in Oakland Mills have really nice playgrounds with really nice equipment, except 9.5 months of the year, from about 8:30 in the morning until about 6 at night, which means during the fall and winter months, basically when there's daylight, they're off limits. So, for people with the tiniest tots who aren't in school yet, those nice playgrounds are not available for the vast majority of the day, for the vast majority of the year. So it's not, while it looks good to put those on a map on paper and show how all the circles overlap, it's not a one-to-one trade-off when it comes to availability. And if CA is trying to attract the next generation, the families of the future with the little toddlers before they get to school, then implying that some of these tot lots could be replaced with what's available elsewhere may not work out in the end. I'm not saying it's the wrong thing to do. I'm saying that taking it too far or not recognizing that could be short-sighted.
Okay, Warren?
Yeah, I read the document as well, and I thought it was very thorough. I agree with Lynn. I think metal kind of ready-made swings is unimaginative, and I question whether the seesaw that they had was really it didn't look like that was much fun, but I don't know. But I mean, I raised 3 kids in Oakland, my wife and I. Yes, that's it. And we loved the tot lots. We just lived on the tot lots for years. So it's good. I think one of the things I want to point out, Jonathan had a good point about the schools and that they're not always available, the school playgrounds. But also, if we're going to close a school, close a tot lot, I think we should think about economics, because if there are places where people don't have cars and we don't want to have, they'll have to walk. So I think we need to think about that as well. I think that needs to be in the equation. So if you just think about it, I mean, like the Thunder Hill side, we have, we can walk to all our pools, all our tot lots, but we could, they're all pretty busy. There's always somebody at all the tot lots, but I want to make sure that the economics is also in the equation, because there are people carless.
Okay. Anyone else?
There are also 1-car families. So
Yeah.
if somebody has the car, then then the person taking care of the kid or kids is home stuck because they can't walk the tot lot.
I'll add that I read it too, and when I looked at the metal equipment, it reminded me of what we had on the playground in the 1960s. So they could take a look at Symphony Woods and the creativity they're doing there with musical tot lots and tires and all that. I just think that putting in metal equipment is just a quick fix without a lot of thought.
Yeah.
This is where I think it could be exciting for Oakland Mills to, work closely with CA, and maybe there's one that they're saying is not ADA accessible, is in an area, blah, blah, blah. But maybe there's one near there, and maybe the community could actually have more if it were combined. I don't know, but if you wanted to work with them and really have more of a say in what a particular tot lots, whatever, or in some cases you may want a playground, which is a lot more expensive. But you would maybe think about, well, do we need this particular tot lot right there if we get the playground? There's a lot of options. It's a question of whether you want to really work closely with CA on looking at a couple so that you have models, including what type of equipment. So it's,
So is Bill, are you gonna take the lead? Because I would hate that to have this happen, like be something that we miss the opportunity. Are you gonna speak to
Yeah.
Dennis to find out where in the process we're at, and what we need to do?
That was my thought, that as I'm listening to everything, next step is I email Dennis Matty, say, hey, what's our next step here in the power program? Let's, re-engage, which is what I wanted to do in the priorities with CA, is re-engage on the pilot. They've done their base background, and let's see what's possible. Get the community engaged, probably maybe even get it on the agenda, get a lot of people involved, etc. Walk to playgrounds, see what we've got, look online at lots of different options. And of course, Lynn with her grandchildren has probably been all over the place at lots of different tot lots, etc. Lots of different ideas.
All over the region.
All over the region, right. To expand the conversation and even expand it beyond tot lots to playgrounds, to multi-generational connection places, which has a tot lot playground, open area like Blandair. Blandair is very popular in terms of multi-generational use in a small area. Tot lot, the flat artificial turf for kids playing with the adults, and you get a family there, so that if they've got one car, the whole family could get in and they can all do something potentially. So a wide range of possibilities. And yes, I'll take the lead, absolutely, and email Dennis and see how to re-engage and continue the process.
okay, well, obviously I want to work with you on that.
Sure.
Okay, is that the consensus of the board? Is that okay with the whole board?
I think Rebecca she wants to make
You're
a
gonna-
point.
you're gonna make final decisions, but yeah, Rebecca, I'm sorry.
Oh,
Yeah, I didn't see
sorry,
that.
I didn't take it down. I think it's already been covered. I like what Lynn said. I don't like normal playgrounds. I was just looking, I think I'm probably the one closest to the tot lots out of this whole group, with the youngest kids, maybe Lynn now with grandkids, but playgrounds are dated. Like there's no need to put more playgrounds or change the tot lots. Have open-ended play, like logs the kids can climb on, tires, but something that's also lovely for older people to sit around and look at or walk around, or not just closed playgrounds. Anyway, but I think that ship has sailed, and I'd love to be in on it, Bill, with you if you can.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Obviously, we're all going to be talking about it, but
yeah, I would like to be in on that too.
Great.
Absolutely.
I think this could be exciting, and Oakland Mills again would be taking a leadership role, which I think my gut feeling is CA would be very grateful for. I'm sure they will. Okay, thank you very much, guys.
Thanks, Ginny. All right, Sandy, want me to bring up the
Okay, then-
financials on the screen?
Sure, really just that page, Schedule A, cash reserve. Yeah, so many thanks to Ginny and the CA board. I can't see it all, Jonathan. Or maybe it's my screen.
Well, it's
Go up,
bigger than
move
one
it.
screen.
Move it up a little. Yeah. Okay, so the cash reserve, as you know, is what we have above 20% over our operating expenses. And that part of our management contract is that over 20, we can retain 20%. Anything over that goes back to CA. So the equation this year changed in evaluating our expenses, and they averaged 3 years of our budgets rather than the past year, which was a more fair look at our cash reserve. They also gave us additional assessment share late in the fourth quarter of last year. And they said that amount would not count as the cash reserve. And there was also some contingency funding that they took away from the cash reserve. So all those calculations helped the village reduce the cash amount that we would have to give back to CA. We still have the same amount of reserve, but it lowered the threshold by excluding a lot of income that normally we would have to have counted towards it. Complicated. But after all that, the amount of money that we are giving back as our cash reserve is $22,422. Before these calculations that the CA board approved, it would have been closer to $45,000. So that extra $25,000 is in our village reserves. So that's really good. And the CA board also agreed or passed something that said that the cash reserves they got back, and there were only actually 2 other villages that had excess cash, ourselves, Hickory Ridge, and a very little amount from King's Contrivance. Everyone else didn't even have any cash reserve at the end of the year. They said they would invest it back into the village where the money was given for environmental projects. And so that $22,422 will be reinvested into Oakland Mills. I'm not sure about the process for that. It's environmental, so Bill, that probably is more open space because it's going to be on CA open space property, I would think. But you can work with Jenny on that, and Dennis probably. So that's all good because they're reinvesting in our village and we have to give less than we actually thought. So I think we ended the year very well because we were able to donate substantially to our schools. We were able to survive the COVID year, pay our bills, pay our salaries, and still have reserve. And I think that's a very positive thing for Oakland Mills. So we have to revote on the budget because that figure has changed because of the CA calculations. Nothing else in the budget as far as income or expenses has changed. It's these 3 exclusions that we, those are the ones, well, no, not Jonathan. But anyway, the bottom line is we have to revote on the budget because of the new calculation for cash reserve. That's it.
I'll motion to approve the budget as amended due to the recalculation of the cash reserve.
I second.
Okay, I think Warren jumped in a split second ahead of Bill.
It was just a nose, it was like a nose ahead of me, I think.
It was.
Is there any further discussion?
So I was wondering if that 22,422 could be used for the no mow hill. I know that's not open space, but
I pretty much think that it's not CA property.
yeah,
Jonathan?
that's
Right. It's got,
Well, it's definitely not CA property.
it has
We
to,
would have loved it.
yeah, that
It
would
has
be
to be-
nice.
yeah, it has,
You muted yourself, Jenny.
has to be CA property.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're not, the Board of Education has a lot more money than CA does.
Yes, they do. And clearly they don't want to spend it at Oakland Mills.
They just don't spend it here, yeah.
What can I say? What can I say? No, it's CA opens, well, not just, it doesn't have to be open space, I guess, CA property.
Property for environmental.
Yeah, for environmental things.
Or environmental.
Yes.
So not to belabor this too much, because I know it's getting late, but going back to a point Rebecca made earlier, would EV chargers at CA facilities be considered environmental?
That's one of my, that was in my,
Yeah.
I think it is. There's a lot that can be, you can stretch that. And I had a lot of examples in the amendment, but yeah, I would give it a shot if that's what you want.
Okay.
I don't know what you want, but if that's what you want, yeah, I don't
We
know. what
put
that
it on our agenda, Jonathan, as new business,
Yeah.
as a discussion.
Um,
I don't know how to go about this.
I see. It might be premature to discuss because CA hasn't really said what's in scope. So I wonder if Ginny, you could get clarification of what's
Right.
in scope, and then we at least could have a discussion of what is realistic versus everyone's dreams of what they think of as environmental.
Well, if I could help you on this in terms of, I think let me get a cost for EV charger, but it might be location might be an issue, but let me see if I can get a sort of a ballpark figure on that. So at least you know whether that's workable or not. And then the rest is, quite frankly, you just tell them what you want, and then there'll be a decision working with you on
So
it.
if we needed
I
like,
wouldn't limit yourself, because you're not going to get an answer to what the environmental thing means.
Okay.
That's why I tried listing a lot of things,
Mhm.
which still didn't cover everything. I think it's flexible, so let's take advantage of it. Just come up with what you want, and then we'll get the cost.
so
All right.
should we put it on,
Put
Jonathan?
it on as new business. Yeah.
Okay. Did you vote?
No, we're still in discussion. Was there any further discussion on the motion? All right, all in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Rebecca, your screen has gone black. Are you there? I don't know where Rebecca is. All right, we're at 6. Let's just call it 600.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next thing is, we have, unfortunately, at the Thunderhill Neighborhood Center, the Oakland Mills Nursery School has closed its doors, and they were in operation for, I'd say, at least 45 years, but had been having trouble even before COVID. So, they have closed its doors, but the exciting thing is that there's a Thunderhill resident who has a in-home preschool, pre-K, and her dream has to be in the neighborhood and to have a center out of her house. And she has agreed to wanting to lease the Thunderhill Neighborhood Center for her school, which I just think is exciting. I mean, she'll be right in the neighborhood and she serves the neighborhood. She will probably enter into a lease beginning September 1st through, I do a year to begin with. She won't have kids in there until the end of the school year because she has a grant from the state to have it at her house, and she can't change that location, but she's going to pay rent, and she'll have, months to get everything set up the way she wants, and we'll get the center cleaned and painted and all that. So I just think that, it's sad about the school, but it's great that I found someone that is in Thunderhill. So excited about that. Camp is finishing up at Stevens Forest. I think they had a successful summer. So then the Village in Howard will take over back occupancy. I'm not sure what their plans are with the new COVID going on, but they're the tenant there going forward. And also we had lost our church at the other barn, and we have a new church that's interested, that is going to enter into a contract for every Sunday morning from 8 until noon, which is really good. And then they'll be out at noon and not using our kitchen like the other church that was there until 1:30. So we can really easily have an afternoon, evening rental on Sundays and have a constant flow. And with each of them, the rents are actually much higher than their former tenants were paying because they're new tenants and we're not carrying over years and years of old rates. So that's all good. We're there, Brigitte, myself, Karina, and Mike are in the office Tuesdays and Thursdays right now. Amy's been working from home. Carrie's been doing the letters of compliance from home. And starting right after Labor Day, Donna and Charlotte will come back and we'll open up Monday through Thursday. We're going to have front desk staff from 10 till 4. Fridays will be like, we might be there, but we're not going to have to be there or have a front desk staff. So that'll get the building staffed and get them back in. And then looking for another person for 1 or 2 weeknights when we have meetings. I have one person now, but we're gonna need to start having a weeknight person more than just Emily, and probably 2 Saturdays a month. So if anyone knows anyone, it'd be lovely if this person spoke Spanish and English, because there's a great need for that in our staffing. So I did just send a notice out today. So I start in Oakland Mills because I tell you pretty much everyone I have and is found us through our Oakland Mills and are somehow associated with Oakland Mills. So if anyone knows anyone who's looking for probably a Tuesday, Wednesday, or Thursday, probably 1 or 2 nights on a weeknight between 5:30 and 9, and Saturday morning, probably 2 Saturdays from 9 till 1. Please have them email me. That's it.
All right. Thank you, Sandy.
Uh-huh.
Lynn, did you have anything from the architecture?
Yeah, I do. I think that some of you may have noticed that a community announcement went out during the week talking about trees. And that's because we had a lot of questions from residents on the RAC committee. We had a lot of questions about the health of trees they were seeing, and you may have seen in your own neighborhood. Dead leaves, branches coming down, twigs looking kind of peculiar, all of that. And so some people were really rushing to, oh dear, do I need to have this tree taken down? It's obviously diseased, and what am I going to do? And so working with the RAC committee and specifically with Kay Wisniewski, who a lot of you know, most of you know, the announcement went out to say, no, this is really damage from the cicadas. The trees will recover. It looks kind of bad now, but they're healthy trees and they'll come back. And so there's no need to kind of jump the gun and have trees taken down. But then that brings us to another issue, which is that over the course of the past year, the RAC has approved removal of over 100 trees, and 100 trees represents about a full acre of mature forest. And we all know, with all the things we're hearing about climate change and about what contribution trees make to controlling carbon emissions and all of that sort of thing, that at that rate, that it's every year Oakland Mills, it's just something that we need to address and kind of get on board with. And so we're looking at ways in that we can work with the residents and kind of come out with some kind of guidelines. Certainly we all understand that trees die, that trees can present a hazard to property. There are a lot of reasons that people might want to take down a tree, but there are also a lot of reasons not to do it. And so to kind of come up with an education program about that. So you'll be hearing more about that in the near future. Of course, I'll bring it to you all before anything goes forward as far as anything major, but in terms of things that are just educational components for the residents who are asking about tree removal, that's how we're going to be proceeding. So that's about it from me.
All right. Thank you very much, Lynn. Looks like we're on to the bulletin board. So I will just work through the Hollywood squares. Amy, anything from the office? All right, Sandy?
Nope.
Okay, Ginny?
I'm looking forward to Thursday's pool.
Me too. Got a lot of cookies.
I'll eat them.
And lemonade, right?
Juice
No?
boxes and water, because we wanted to do boxes rather than touching and pouring and all that.
All right. Well, you know what? I should have said something from the very
Cupcakes.
beginning. The next person up for board bulletin board is Jennifer, and we should have welcomed you, because I just realized, even though you got on the board a month ago, this is your first meeting because we didn't have that July meeting. So I apologize. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
It-
I'm
I
glad
mean,
that I was able to get back on.
yeah, you've been on all the emails and everything. So I kind of just realized as I called on you, wait, this is her first meeting.
Yeah, I was actually about to ask you, what is this part? Because of that.
So this we close every meeting with the board bulletin board. So if there's something you want to share with the board, if there's a a thanks you want to shout out, something like that that wasn't part of the business agenda, now's the time.
Oh, well, okay. So thanks for having me on. I feel like I didn't really get a chance to say that before, but I'm looking forward to, I'm at the beach now, but I'll be back next week. So hopefully I'll try and reach out to everybody a little bit more so I can hopefully meet you guys in person, or like, I don't know, figure out a time to really get in touch with everybody individually or something like that. I'm trying to think if there's anything exciting going on in the world of Verona, but I don't think so. I am trying to put a lot of the pool party stuff onto like the Verona's what is it called? The resident board. So that people know what's going on. So because that seems to be the way that we all communicate is through that board there. So I think that's it. I'm happy to be here though. Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah, welcome.
Yeah.
All right. It looks like Rebecca might still have been knocked offline or something. Rebecca, are you there?
Hmm.
All right. Yeah, something's going on with her connection, I think. Rena?
No, just that Officer DeBronzo and I spoke today, and so we're going to try to get together in September because he was called away for something else. So we're going to touch bases again in September.
All right, great.
Mhm.
Warren?
Just I heard yesterday or today actually. I volunteer at the food bank garden, and one of the guys there, he's a master gardener and a watershed steward, and he said they're going to have a Monday meeting next Monday. Megan has arranged a meeting with the watershed people to work out the no mow
Oh,
proposal.
cool.
So that's moving forward,
Great.
Good.
and that's it.
I'm hopeful.
Yes, me too.
All right, Lynn?
No, nothing more.
Okay, Bill?
Yes, two items. One, Warren, I'll get to you as a starting point. I did a lot of online looking at photographs, et cetera, to follow up on your idea potentially for the No-Mow Hill of the letters OM as part of that garden, and the kinds of hedge that could be used potentially. And I got lots of pictures. So I think that there might be able to be something in terms of an OM kind of in the middle of that No-Mow hillside that would make it iconic and make it stand out, along with being a flower garden, et cetera, et cetera. And I'll get that to you. I've got lots of photos and I got to pare it down to 2 or 3 that really show what would be possible. And then the second point is that tonight, several times, it looked like Ginny muted herself. I don't think Ginny did. I think it was Chuck.
Glad you didn't say it was me.
Chuck's been trying that for a long time.
Doesn't work.
I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I have one more thing, Jonathan.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Rena and Ginny, if you want shirts, send me an
Yeah,
email.
I had sent.
Oh,
I
yeah,
didn't
yeah.
get it, I don't think, Ginny. And
Okay.
so resend it with what size? And they
Okay.
run small.
Okay.
just saying
Yeah,
that.
I read it. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Since, okay. Okay, I will
Thank you.
right now.
Okay.
One
Right.
other thing, guys, tomorrow, free swim, Jennifer reminded me, at Stevens Forest Pool at 7 o'clock for teens. It's just a teen party that
Oh,
the
right.
that is putting on. So 7 PM, Stevens Forest. And there, you go online and just register, columbiaassociation.org. If you have trouble with that, let me know. I think I sent something out. Okay,
We had put it in the e-news, I know that.
okay.
All
Thank-
right, thank you. I think that just leaves me, and I've already welcomed Jennifer, so I'll just say I hope to see as many of you as possible Thursday at the pool party, and have a great evening. Thanks for another great meeting. We
Thank
are
you.
adjourned.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good evening.
Bye.
Thank
Have a nice
you.
time at the beach.
Yeah, enjoy.
Have fun.
Will.
You're welcome.
Bye-bye.